So I have one more topper. This is my last briefing, and it is, Brian. And I wanted to start with a series of thank yous. I promised myself I wasn't going to get emotional. Whew. Okay. Thank you. I want to say thank you to the President and the First Lady. They entrusted me in serving in this role for the last 15 months. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but during my first conversation with them, which was in November of 2020 after the election, I was very nervous when I went to see them in Delaware. And really what we talked about for the majority of our conversation was the importance of returning integrity, respect, and civility to the White House. The small sliver of my job here in engaging with all of you, that doesn't not mean that we haven't let our Irish side show, mine and the President's as well. From time to time, I recognize that. But on my best days, and as I look back, I hope I followed the example of integrity and grace that they have set for all of us and do set for all of us every day. And I'm incredibly grateful to them. I'm not going to get everyone here, but I want to thank, there is a Biden family that is extended and expanded far beyond the Biden named family, and that includes people who have worked with the President and for the President for many years. Ron, Anita, Bruce, Cedric, Kate, J.O.D., Donald and Rochetti, Susan, Deese, Jake, Evan, Annie, Elizabeth Alexander. There's so many others, and the reason I mention them is because part of my job, or anyone's job in this role, is to represent and talk about the policies and the work of any administration. They have integrity, grit, commitment to trying, even on the hardest days and worst days, to make the world better for the American people, and I am very grateful to them. Now, I'm not going to cry about the press team. Whew. Okay. Thank you to the press team. Many of them are here. Some of them are not here because they are taking much-needed days off. It has nothing to do with me personally, I promise. But you all know a lot of them. For those who don't know them, they are incredibly tough, smart, hardworking, and deeply, deeply good human beings, deeply good public servants. And, people always ask me, and I'm sure you guys get asked this too, about whether Washington is rotten, whether everybody is corrupt here and, nothing good happens and we all just argue with each other. And I, having done this job, believe the absolute opposite is true, because I have worked with and engaged with all of these incredible people across the administration and this amazing team, many of whom are here that I get to work with every day. And as I said about Korean last week, these people are already the stars of the team, but they're going to be shining stars in the future, and I'll miss them a lot. Okay, whew, I promised myself I was going to keep it together. I'm not. This is the last part of this. I want to thank all of you in this room. You have challenged me, you have pushed me, you have debated me, and at times we have disagreed. That is democracy in action. That is it working. Without accountability, without debate, government is not as strong. And you all play an incredibly pivotal role. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for making me better. Most importantly, thank you for the work every day you do to make this country stronger. And I am very grateful to all of you as well. So thank you for your role and to the role of your colleagues here and around the world.
Now, I try not to break the fourth wall in these videos because I want to focus on the news, but if you've watched me at all over the last couple of years, you're probably intimately familiar with Jen Psaki, and most notably her run-ins with Fox's Peter Doocy, which means that this is probably a bittersweet moment. Now, first of all, it's hard to overstate how important she's been in terms of bringing transparency back to the White House. She alone has done more press briefings than all of Trump's press secretaries combined. Jen Psaki just wrapped her 224th briefing. Briefings in the Trump era amounted to 205, with Stephanie Grisham doing literally 0 and Kayleigh McEnany doing 40, almost all of which amounted to her desperately reading prepared remarks out of a binder. All of that's to say that having a press secretary and a White House committed to transparency was sorely lacking and duly restored by this administration. But while transparency alone is a step in the right direction, it's not everything. In reality, it was Jen Psaki's dedication to telling the truth and adhering to facts that set her apart from her predecessors. And that's not to say that she or this White House has done everything perfectly, but she herself would be the first person to admit that, and she quite literally has. Take, for example, when she landed herself in hot water for asking a reporter, should we just send a test to every American? Here's what she said in response to that.
when I was asked about testing. And the truth is, if you look back at the transcript, which I realize no one will, I had said about 9,000 words about what we had done for testing, expanding markets, making 8 tests available, funding and doing it. And I think it was by about the 9th or 10th version of the question that I think I had just hit my limit. And, you know, we're all human, but it is your job to control that urge and to always provide information, context, all the details. Even if people in the room sometimes look like their eyes may roll back in their head because they're kind of bored of the same question. And that was a good lesson for me and a good reminder. Now, I will say, just to go back to the context, I was asked, why wouldn't we send tests to every American? We have still not done that. And if we had done that, I would still say it would have been a waste of taxpayer money and people wouldn't have used them and wouldn't have thrown them out. But I did not provide the context and the tone was not right in that moment. And I wish I could go back and do that.
So again, this isn't to say that she's infallible, but it is to say that she never sought to sow distrust or to lie or to manipulate people. She came prepared to these briefings with facts, with reliable information, with common sense, with compassion, and with decency. I know those things should be a given, but they're not. I have a lot of respect for people who choose to abide by those values anyway. And finally, let's be honest here, she kicked Peter Doocy's ass, but it's frankly more than about just Peter Doocy. He was a mouthpiece for the network. I don't think Doocy would have been any different from any other sacrificial lamb that the network trotted out to regurgitate its talking points. What Jen was able to do, though, was show just how false those right-wing attacks were. And so when left unchallenged, these attacks could be and were especially potent and effective. But when she was able to confront them, she put on full display just how weak and tenuous and half-baked they actually were. And in an era where I think we can all agree that messaging plays a huge role in politics, and that Democrats aren't exactly known for clear, concise, hard-hitting messaging, Jen Psaki offered us a rare commodity in someone who is able to deliver exactly that. So while it's unfortunate that she's leaving her role behind the podium, and while it's unfortunate that my job will be just a little more difficult without her, I mostly just made this video, for what it's worth, as a way to say thanks. Thanks for doing your job with integrity, with honesty, with clarity, and with facts, and for being really good at doing that job. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.